I'm Regina Anderson, 34 years old. And my entire adult life has been spent working in classified defense projects. Not the glamorous kind that end up on magazine covers or in documentaries. The kind where success is measured in threats avoided and disasters nobody even knew were coming. Quiet success, quiet respect. The kind known only by the handful of people allowed to know it. For years, I supported my family from the shadows too. Paying bills without being asked. Proofreading grad school papers at 2 a.m. Stepping in before anyone even admitted they needed help. Have you ever been shamed by the very people you sacrificed for? Then you already know how fast the world can flip when the truth finally enters the room. Tell me where you're listening from, and what kept you silent until silence became unbearable. The officers' club smelled of polished brass and applause that had aged. My mother leaned in, voice soft and venomous. "You're embarrassing this family." Brandon smirked and muttered, "Deadbeat." I didn't flinch. I stood still as the door behind me began to open. Most days I'm in a windowless operations center, surrounded by machinery that hums with a steady, mechanical heartbeat. Racks of servers. Firewalls layered like disciplined troops. My badge doesn't unlock fancy lounges. It unlocks the rooms nobody talks about. My job doesn't generate headlines or applause. It prevents them. My work is unseen, uncelebrated, indispensable. My family never understood that. To them, value lived in uniforms, medals, job titles you could brag about while someone refilled your wine glass. Dad's Navy plaques cover half their living room. My mother's framed retirement photo, Principal of the Year, sits proudly above the fireplace. Brandon and my brother-in-law have their awards displayed in perfect symmetry. The only thing representing me is an old picture from college. Me holding a laptop, blurry and crooked. They called it cute, not serious. For years, I wore my silence like armor. When mom's insurance refused a medical procedure, I transferred $18,000 instantly. When Brandon got his second DI and begged me through drunken tears, I wired $4,000 before he finished explaining. Travel fees, notarization, emergency bills, $1,200 here, $750 there. Over and over, every time, I told myself it was love. But love shouldn't feel like debt collection. They never once said thank you. They never even acknowledged it. Meanwhile, the family group chat, named The Real Adults, buzzed with inside jokes and vacation plans I was never invited to. I laughed when I saw the name, but not a real laugh. The kind that echoes in an empty room. Sometimes, during classified briefings surrounded by other people who couldn't tell the world what they did either, I wondered why I still chased a family's approval that I'd clearly never earn. Help protect national infrastructure. But to them, I'm just a consultant who works from home. Families, like mine, mistake visibility for worth. They think things matter only when other people can applaud them. But medals don't hold a system. Together. The wiring behind the wall does. People like me do. The week of Madison's promotion dinner, I was buried in a simulation review, hunting vulnerabilities that, if ignored, could cripple an entire network. My inbox pinged. An email from Madison. Hope you can make it Saturday. Mum says it's semi-formal. Short, polite, cold. Semi-formal meant one thing. Don't embarrass us. I replied, I'll be there. She reacted with a thumbs dash. That was the entire conversation. I shut my laptop and leaned back as the servers hummed around me. Constant, steady, a reminder that I'd built a whole life around protecting systems that would never thank me. And maybe, just maybe, that was about to shift. The next morning, I checked the family group chat. The real adults were in peak form. Memes about coffee. Brandon bragging about a promotion. Mom obsessing over Madison's centerpieces. Not one message acknowledged that I'd be attending. Not even looking forward to seeing you. A voicemail followed. Mom again. Voice clipped and controlled. Please dress properly this time. There will be officers present. I almost laughed. I've designed encryption frameworks those officers rely on. But sure, let's worry about my dress. Earlier that week, Dad emailed me a job posting. Half my current salary, but with a shiny corporate badge he could brag about at brunch. They knew it was insulting. They just didn't care. Flashes of old moments hit me like static. Brandon sobbing after his DUI. Madison panicking about her graduate thesis while I rewrote it for her all night. Mum trembling during the insurance fiasco. I solved all of it. Paid for all of it. They forgot all of it. The memory of their house always smelled the same. Brass polish, overcooked roast, and pride, so thick it was almost physical. Hierarchy embedded into the walls. Dad's plaques like commandments. My photo shoved behind a staircase. Half blocked by a plant. And still, when the dinner invitation came, I didn't delete it. I stared at it for hours. It wasn't about belonging anymore. It was about clarity. If I stayed home, they'd call me petty. If I went, I'd finally stop making excuses for them. I stood in the mirror later that night, smoothing a plain black dress. Not showy. Not submissive. Just mine. You don't need them to notice you. You just need to finally see them. When I parked outside the officers' club, rain tapped softly at the windshield. Patient. Steady. The building glowed under streetlights. The glass entrance reflecting me like a stranger. Inside, warm laughter rolled through the walls. Easy, familiar, and absolutely not for me. I inhaled once, set my shoulders, and walked forward. I wasn't walking in to be accepted, was walking in to finally stop forgiving them. The officers' club gleamed like a temple built to hierarchy. Brass rails. Portraits of decorated men staring down like judges. Conversations pulsed with titles, ranks, and transfers. I arrived early, searching for a quiet corner where I could simply exist. The hostess offered a polite smile and pointed to the long centerpiece table. Name cards shimmered in candlelight. Lieutenant Cole. Dr. Madison Reed. Sergeant Reed. None for me. So I sat at the very end, where the light faded, where people wouldn't have to look at me. My mother spotted me first. Her smile thinned. She walked fast, voice low and sharp enough to cut skin. Just don't make tonight about you. It's Madison's night. I nodded. I hadn't planned to. Before she could continue, Brandon swaggered up, beard dangling from his hand, tie loosened like he'd earned casualness in a formal setting. He grinned, the grin of someone who expects applause from every room he enters. Well, look who finally showed up. Deadbeat made it after all. People nearby laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was easier than conscience. I didn't bite. I didn't defend myself. I smiled, not because I was weak, but because I was finally in control. Dinner began. Silverware chimed. Conversations layered over each other like static. Every table exchange started with, "So what do you do?" Then came monologues stuffed with achievements. Nobody asked me. I still listened, to Madison reciting international affairs analyst with polished modesty, to Dad reliving his Navy days like a rehearsed performance. Mum beamed through it all, the perfect audience. When someone finally glanced at me, Mum jumped in fast. Oh no, she just works from home. Something tech-related. Something tech-related. I swallowed hard, my palms pressed together under the napkin, fingers tracing the hem dot, grounding myself. I could have told them I just finished a threat simulation that prevented an entire state's imaging science work from collapsing. I could have told them I briefed people who brief for generals, but I couldn't. Not without breaking the oaths that actual mattered. So, I let their ignorance hang there. Silence has weight. That night, it felt like lead. Dessert came and went. The air grew thicker. The laughter louder. Every toast was another reminder that in their story, I was the footnote, but peripheral. Then, just as Madison raised her glass to thank Orion for believing in her, I felt a shift in the room. A hush. The door opened behind me, and the temperature changed. I didn't turn right away. I didn't need to. I could feel it. That quiet authority that walks in without needing to announce itself. And in that silence, I realized the night was about to rewrite itself. The air in the room went thin, like everyone was holding some breath. Footsteps echoed on the marble. Steady, deliberate, the kind that carried weight even before you saw where it was. When I finally turned, Ethan Cole stood in the doorway. Dress white so sharp they caught the chandelier light like glass. The metals on his chest shimmered with quiet precision. He scanned the room once, polite nod here and there until his gaze found me, and then he stopped for a split second. No one moved. Then Ethan straightened, raised his hand, and delivered a crisp, perfect salute. "Ma'am." The sound of a fork hitting porcelain cut through the silence. My father's. Mom's face froze amid smile. Madison's eyes widened. Her words caught halfway between confusion and denial. I didn't return the salute. Not right away. I just stared at him, feeling something inside me loosen. Something I hadn't realized had been clenched for years. "Commander," I said softly. It came out flat. Instinctive, he lowered his hand, still looking at me. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said quietly. "Same," I replied. He gestured to the empty seat beside me. "May I?" I nodded. He sat. The hum of voices tried to restart but stumbled. People whispered, but no one dared to. "Ask." The unspoken question floated between every glass and every breath. Why would a decorated officer salute their family's supposed disappointment? Ethan didn't explain. He didn't have to. Under the table, something brushed my hand. He slid a small coin across the linen, smooth, heavy, engraved. A challenge coin. I looked at it, then at him. His expression stayed neutral, but the massage was clear. He knew weeks earlier. My encryption patch had prevented his unit's communications from collapsing mid-exercise. He couldn't say it out loud. But that salute, that washer's acknowledgement, a silent thank you from someone who understood exactly what invisible work really meant. I closed my fingers around the coin, its edges pressed into my palm like proof of the work, the risk, the worth across the table. My father stared at me as if he'd never really seen me before. Mom avoided eye contact. Brandon's smirk was gone, replaced by something smaller, almost uneasy. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just breathed. For the first time in a long time, I felt the oxygen of recognition. Not because I demanded it, but because it arrived from a place that actually mattered. Dinner stumbled in. The laughter never fully recovered. Madison tried to restart a conversation, but her voice trembled. The room couldn't find its balance again when Ifnally stood to leave. Ethan rose. "Take care, ma'am," he said. "No theatrics, just respect outside." Rain blurred the streetlights into softer lows. I walked to my car in silence. the coin warm in my hand. The echo of that salute replaying in my mind for years. I told myself my quiet was grace, that keeping peace was strength. But as the wipers cleared the windshield, the truth hit harder than any insult ever had. My quiet hadn't been grace. It had been permission, and I just revoked it. The drive home felt longer than usual. Rain droomed against the windshield. Steady and relentless, like it wastering to keep pace with my thoughts. I replayed every moment of that dinner. The insult, the silence, the salute. It should have felt vindicated. I should have been thrilled to finally be seen. But what I felt instead was something colder, cleaner, a kind of clarity thatched in its honesty. For years, I'd called my silence compassion. I told myself it was maturity, understanding, grace. But it wasn't. It was fear. Feckin' that teaches you to shrink yourself so others stay comfortable. I'd mistaken peacekeeping for peace. That's the trap. When you're raised to equate calm with safety, you learn to appease instead of facet. You learn to fawn. You stay small to avoid being seen as difficult. You laugh it off when they call you lazy beckles. Explaining your value feels like begging for it. The fawn response. That's what it's called. I'd read about it once in a psychology brief. It's their survival instinct no one talks about. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. That quiet compliance that keeps familiars functioning at your expense. Every time I edited Madison's papers, bailed Brandon out, paid Mom's bills, I wasn't just helping. I was auditioning forth. I thought if I gave enough, they'd stop overlooking me. But all it did was teach them that I would tolerate irasa. Silence over time, Becca mess permission. That realization stung deeper than their insults ever could. The highway lights. Esterine lest. My hand brushed against the challenge coin resting on the passenger seat. Its edges caught the glow. A quiet circle of validation from someone who didn't own one. That single gesture said more than all their empty compliments ever cowled by the time I pulled into my driveway. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was awake. I left my phone on the counter and didn't open the family thread. I didn't need to. I already knew what would be there. Half-hearted excuses. Surface-level chatter. Maybe even a joke to smooth over the tension. Instead, I opened the app, held me thumb over the thread name, The Real Adults, and hit mute. The notification tone went silent. The effect was immediate, like unclenching a muscle I didn't realize I'd been tightening for years. The leash was gone. That night, I sat in the quiet, listening to the low hum of my apartment. It was the same sound as my office servers. Steady, grounding, alive for the first time. Silence didn't feel like suppression. It felt like power. And somewhere in that stillness I decided if they needed my invisible to stay comfortable, they'd have to learn to live with their discomfort of my absence. Tomorrow I'd go back to work, but not as the woman who kept apologizing for her success. Tomorrow, I'd start rewriting the system first. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. No messages. No family thread buzzing. Just Kia. I made a coffee, opened my laptop and dove straight into the audit report I'd been leading for weeks. My head was clear, sharp. By noon, I'd found 3 security flaws. Everyone else had missed one, serious enough to trigger a full protocol rewrite. When I sent their report, my director called within minutes. Good work on that. You're leading the fix. That was it. No ceremony. No applause. Just trust. The kind of validation I actually respected. 2 days later, HR sent a notice about a role update lead systems advisor. A title that would mean nothing at a dinner table, but everything to the people who mattered. I stared at it for a second, then closed the email. I didn't need to screenshot it or send it to anyone. The work spoke for itself. Fridays became my favorite days. It started blocking 1 hour on my calendarmanship hour. No slides, no hierarchy, just anyone who wanted Tolan. The first week, a junior analyst named Kara showed up. Nervous, overprepared, trying too hard to sound confident. Halfway through, she blurted out, "Did you ever feel overlooked when you started?" I smiled constantly. But here's what I learned. Being unseen isn't the same as being unimportant. Visibility is for comfort. Value is for impact. Focus in the second. Her shoulders dropped. "That makes sense," she said quietly. When she left, I realized that hour had done more for my peace than any apology my family could have given me. A week later, my phone buzzed. "Madison, the massage was short. Ethan won't tell Mui he saluted you. But I think I messed it up." I stared at it for a long time before typing back. "Call me when you're ready to listen, not defend." She called that night. Her voice was small. I didn't realize how cruel it sounded. "The things we said about you." Mom's embarrassed. "Dad keeps asking questions should have asked years ago." "I'm not looking for embarrassment." I said, "I'm looking for change." Silence. Then she asked, "What does that mean?" I took a breath. No more digs. No more silence when someone minimizes me. And no more pretending the past didn't happen. That's the cost of keeping me in your life. It came out calm, precise, like setting a boundary in code. She hesitated. "That's fair." For the first time, she didn't make excuses. She hadn't tried to soften it with a joke or justify it with, "You know how Mom is." She just accepted it. That was the difference between guilt and growth. After we hung up, I opened a blank note and wrote down 3 sentences. 1. I won't explain my work, but I will explain my limits. 2. I'm available for respect, not revision. 3. If their past is unacknowledged, future invites are declined. Those became my scripts, the boundaries I could return to whenever old patterns tried to sneak back in. Funny thing, the more you enforce them, the lighter I felt. It turns out peace isn't something you earn from others. It's something you protect. Months passed quietly. But not the kind-of quiet that used to choke me. Dissonance was earned. Deliberate mind. Work had rhythm now. Projects rolled in, each more complex than the last. The team trusted me. My name began appearing in internal memos. The kind that never go public but decide everything that does. Then one morning, a briefing invite landed in my inbox. Closed-door session. No phones, no press. The kind-of room where conversations never make out to the outside world. I didn't think much of it until I saw 2 familiar names on the guest list. Christopher and Jennifer Reed. My parents. They must have pulled strings to attend. The thought made me pause. But I didn't well. I had work to do. When the day came, I walked into the conference hall the same way I walked into every secure facility. Calm, focused, unshakable. Their badge at my hip clicked green and I stepped through. The room was simple. Now endows, long table, 12 seats, low lighting. I set my notes on the desk. Double checked the slide that bore only initials and system architecture maps. And then I saw them standing near the back wall, not talking, not waving, just watching. I didn't acknowledge them. Not out of spite, out of choice. I began that presentation. Technical dots stripped of anything emotional. I explained how we'd restructured Velala points, how 3 previously missed flaws were neutralized in under 48 hours. I spoke with precision, not passion. The work was their passion. When it ended, the room stayed still for a few seconds, then quiet applause. My director nodded. Exceptional clarity. Omna. I gathered my files. As the others filed out, I felt 8 presence behind me. Dad's voice came first. Low, almost uncertain. "You looked like you belonged up there." I turned. His hands were in his pockets. The same stance he used to take when giving orders. Only this time, there was no command in his tone. I do, I said. He nodded slowly. We didn't know. I know. I replied. That was the problem. He opened his mouth. Maybe to apologize. Maybe to explain. But he didn't. He just nodded again. Eyes lowered. Mum stood beside him, silent, gripping her purse like it was an anchor. I walked past them without bitterness. Just balance. That night back home, I set my notes on the desk and glanced at the small arrangement by the window. The challenge coin gleamed beside a framed photo of a coastline I'd taken on a solo trip last year. A reminder that solitude isn't the same as loneliness. My phone buzzed Madison again. A simple text. Proud of you, no emojis, no fluff, just that.